let's dive into scripture here. The scripture says, should have on the screen there. It says, he himself bore our sins in his body on the cross, so that we might die to sin and live for righteousness. By his wounds you have been healed. For you were like sheep gone astray, but now you have returned to the shepherd and overseer of your souls. You know, the cross has, if it could speak, imagine what the stories it could say. If it just had someone to listen to. You know, February 2nd, 2017, I published a book called The Cross Tells Me. And it had stories of what, if the cross could speak, what could it say? I'm gonna read some of these stories out of the book today. The plot of the book is, the main character is the guy named Bill McFan, came to a small town of Philadelphia to find order. He looked everywhere in that town. The only place he found order was on a hillside under a wooden cross that the town seemed so precious. Bill, he wanted to tear that cross down and replace it with the oil well. And here, I'm not going to read all the stories, but here's a few of my favorite ones that I'm going to read to you today. Suddenly, all went white once again. By this time, Bill started to understand what is happening. He opened his eyes earnestly, wondering what next sight would behold him. When his eyes adjusted to the surroundings, he realized they are in a different room, a room with pink and white paint on the walls and flowers on the bedspread. Then he sees her, a teenage girl sitting in the corner with her knees drawn up to her chin. At that moment, before Bill had time to take it all in, a man came bustling in to the room. He reeked of cigarettes and alcohol. Bill wanted to hold his breath as the once pleasant room filled with the odor. With a loud, ugly voice, the man bellowed, "I thought I told you to clean out the garage." The girl shrank back into her chair even further. "I did, Dad." Well, her dad slurred, "It's not good enough for me. I'm too drunk to do it myself." The girl grew bolder. "Alcohol is not your whole life." This made her dad even more angry. You tell me what's my life." And picked up a beer bottle that was laying on the floor, raised it up high, and before she knew what was going to happen, he broke it over her head with pieces of the broken glass flying everywhere. As his daughter cried out in pain, her dad stumbled back out of the door and slammed it behind him. The girl flung herself into the bed, weeping as what was her life. As she cried, stopped, she picked up one of the pieces of the broken beer bottle and held it in her hand, turning it this way and that way. She slowly rose up and walked over to the light switch, flipping it off, and stayed back down in the darkness. Bill and the cross could see nothing but stood in stunningly silence. A few minutes later, they heard the little girl quietly say, "Ouch, ouch, and ouch." And they knew she was crying. All was silent for a few minutes, and then she got up once again, turned her bedroom light back on, and there was blood dripping down from her right arm. Bill turned to the cross and said, "Did she just cut herself?" And with a heavy heart, the cross said, yes, Bill, she did. But why? It's complicated, beginning the cross. She thinks she's not pretty enough like all the other girls. She wants a boyfriend who truly will love her and wants someone who cares for her instead of just using her. The situation with her dad just adds to the pain. Bill couldn't understand, but why is she cutting herself? That's what she thinks that will make the pain go away. Hang on, just keep watching her. At that moment, the young girl looked over to the broken beer bottle. In a way, the pieces were laying on the floor and noticed about a way it formed a cross. The teenage girl started to cry earnestly. Bill, still very confused, said, why is she crying now? The cross said, because in that moment, as she looked at the broken of the glass, she saw her life and also saw the cross. You see, in that moment, in that very difficult time, she found Jesus. Those tears was relief and joy. Now let me show her her life a year later. The light began to stroll around, and the cross and Bill was in a classroom full of students. They see a large sign advertising the prom coming up here soon. Bill pointed. Look, there's that same girl. Yes, keep watching. What happened next played out like a movie before. Our girl seems to get up the courage for something. They watch as she slowly get up from her seat and walk over to the guy sitting there. It's obviously that is a guy she likes a lot, and we realize she wants to ask him out to prom with her. He glanced up before she get there. Another girl with long dark hair with swing of her hips in front of cut her off. She slinks to the side over heels. This other girl asks the young man at the prom and hears him agreeing. The other girl turns back around, looks straight at our girl and says, give it up. I'm prettier. I'm faster than you. Good luck being alone on prom night, loser. Just then, the bell rang for everyone to go to lunch. And while everyone else head directly out the door of the study hall, our girl made a detour by the teacher's desk, grabbed up a pair of scissors and headed to the restroom. Bill and the cross hovered over to the locked stall door and watched as the hooded girl laid the blade of the scissors on the top of her forearm. Her hands were shaking, then something amazing happened. An image flashed back in her mind. It was the broken beer bottle that was shattered on her bedroom floor those many months ago. They watched as she dropped the scissors on the floor and crumbled to the floor and cried. But why is she crying, Bill asked the cross. Because for that past year, whenever she felt like cutting, she always flashed back to her mind to the broken beer bottle that laid on the floor in shape of the cross. When she sees me, I help her to believe that she is someone worth dying for. And she has great value. Come, I'll show you more. At this time, the light cleared. Bill and the cross were standing in a large, well-kept cemetery. A familiar figure was standing next to the tombstone. Bill said, look, she looks familiar. I know her from somewhere. The cross was quiet, and Bill thought it through. I know, that's Rose from Adelphi. She was at the meeting. What is she doing here? She was putting flowers on her mother's grave. Just keep watching her, Bill, and listen. Rose finished carefully planting the last flower into the ground. Then Rose began to talk. Mom, I don't know if you can hear me or not, but I still feel good to talk to you. You died so young, and I had to learn a lot of things by myself. Without a mother to show me the way, I had to learn how to deal with life without a mother by my side. And sometimes, Mom, it's hard for me to get through life, hard times without you. Sometimes I wish you were still here to tell me that everything will be all right. You know, the way a mother love makes things feel all right. But Mom, you don't have to worry about me anymore, because God is taking care of me now. I learned over the years to trust Him, and He will always tell me that everything will be all right, just like you would have done if you were still here. I'm sure hope you know, Mom, that I'm in His loving hands now. I'll be fine. Oh my, Cross. How did her mom die? Cancer, said the Cross. Cross said, I think I'm going to wake up from this dream now. At this time, Bill and the Cross were standing in the prison. In a prison. This doesn't feel good at all. At this moment, they heard a jail cell door slam shut. The keys turned in a lock, and the angry voices exchanged words. Oh, Cross, why are we here? I don't like being here. Bill looked to his left, and he saw right dark prison cell filled with men as far as he could see. Why are the prison cells full of what looks like a cloud of darkness? Those cloud of darkness, my friends, are all the prisoner's sin. This is one of my dark places on earth. So much sin in one place. Bill, just look at this man inside the cell. Bill turned to his face towards a very haggard-looking guy. At first, Bill guessed he was between the age of 50. But closer examination, he couldn't have been over 30. What about him? He, Cross said, is he here because he aimed a gun at his wife? He pulled the trigger. She survived the physical damage, but not the mental. He has suffered for it too. His actions put him here, but they have also harmed him to this day and night. But why did he do it? As often in the case, it was a mixture of anger and alcohol. And an argument that went wrong, crossed the line. The man had to pay for his crimes. He has been here for 5 years, but I want you to see something more. Jason is his name. Used to know Jesus. He grew up in Sunday school, even attended youth group in church, but he got in the bad crowd. Late in high school, he started to drink and left his faith behind. One thing led to another. Well, he's here, but he is what I really want you to see. This is what I want you to understand. You see, Jason has been talking to a chaplain here lately. See that book under his pillow? That's his Bible. And he's been reading it every chance he gets. I brought you here because, Jason, Jason has been reading the 3rd chapter of Romans. And while he sits in a dark place, a light has begun to shine in his heart and life. But still listen, the prisoner sat down in the bed and picked up his Bible to his chest and quietly said, "Oh God, I'm a sinner. I don't mean to hurt my wife, but I did. I was angry and I did wrong. And I did many other wrong things. Your word says that I have sinned but done wrong. But out of great love, you sent your son to save who turned to you, and God, I guessing, means me too. So Lord, tell me that I'm sorry for my sins. I ask you for forgiveness. I thank you for sending Jesus to die on the cross for me, even though I don't deserve it." What happened next amazed Bill. The dark cloud that surrounded the man left him and went over to the cross. And was standing, the cross seemed to soak it all up. The man's sins leaving the man in likeness. It was like Bill noticed the cross appearance begins to change. While the cross certainly wasn't perfect when Bill first saw it, it knows clearly it was changing. What happened to you, cross? When you began this adventure, you was worn and plain. But something starting to change. You're taking on holes in your surface, just look at you. You'll no longer have a nice, smooth, worn surface. You are looking quite rugged, and you have thousands of holes in you. That look like nail holes. Why all of a sudden you look so raw? Those holes, my friend, represents my purpose. Sit down for a moment. Let me tell you more. The cross said, at one point in history, I was a capital punishment. That's why it symbolized to the Lord death and punishment. But then God sent his son to sacrifice on me behalf, and he was hung on me. And the sins of the world were on his back. Bill said, but if Jesus was King of Kings and the great Messiah, he should have died on something that was made from gold or diamonds, not a rugged piece of wood. See why I picked old rugged cross to sing? Why would God choose an undefined method of death? The cross was quiet for a moment, then replied, Jesus came to show that he died for everyone, rich, poor, important, unknown. He came as the average person to show that God loves everybody. Nobody is perfect, Bill. Jesus is the only perfect one, and he died on me to show each and every person that they don't have to be perfect to come to him. Congratulations, Bill. You just discovered my true identity. After another flash of brilliant light, Bill was standing in a wasteland that was dry and sandy, and he looked around and realized with terror that he was alone. Bill cried out, "Cross, oh cross, where are you?" Suddenly, Bill felt the pain on the back, almost like someone was whipping him with a leather belt. But then found himself shirtless and face down on the ground with his arms spread out. But before he knew what was happening, he couldn't make any sense of this new vision. He was horrified to see two nails coming straight up out of the sand, and screamed in pain as the nails found his hands. In agony, Bill cried out, "Cross, where are you? I need help." At that very moment, the cross rised up out of the sand with Bill nailed to the cross. "Here I am, Bill." Bill's eyes were suddenly opened to what Jesus experienced on the cross. Why cross? Why would a loving father put his only son through this agony and not save him? Why would he let his son suffer and die like this? Because the cross began. God does not hold anything back for his children. He wants all of you to be healed and saved. And there has been a sacrifice made to allow salvation to happen. There's no saving without a shed of blood. So in order for you and the rest of his children not to be sentenced in eternal death, he sentenced Jesus to die once for and all for you. Through his death, you have a chance at life, real life, abundance in this world, the life eternal in the next. It was the only way sin is so destructive. Bill said, "How many fathers gave up their only son for me, cross?" The cross said, "Only one did that, Bill, only one. The one and only God, the Holy Father." The cross went on, and the sad thing about all of this is that people would never know how much it truly costs to see their sin up on the cross. Immediately, Bill was knocked off the cross with his face planted in the sand. When Bill turned around and looked up at the cross, and the bright sunlight was saying to him in the air, he saw something else on the cross. Bill cried out, "Jesus," then closed his eyes just a moment, and when he looked up again, the cross was empty. The cross was Jesus. The cross gently said, "Jesus did not stay on me. He was taken down after he died. He was buried in a tomb with huge stone was rolled in front of it to lock him and keep people out. He lay there for 3 days, dead to the world, but then something wonderful happened. You see, his death wasn't the end. An angel appeared in the tomb on the 3rd day, and the power of God rolled away the stone, and when he did, a brilliant light flashed out of the tomb. Jesus walked out, and alive and healed our sins, was covered, and his body was no more." Bill must have fallen asleep, but now heard a voice repeating his name over and over. He looked up and saw Mayor Matt standing beside him, but quickly realized that he was back in town by the cross. The mayor said, "Where have you been? Another town meeting's about to start." Bill stood up and strong said, "Mayor, I appreciate your hospitality, but I don't think I'm going to drill for oil in your fair little town." The mayor said, "But why, Bill? What made you change your mind?" Bill smiled and said, "Let's just say I have seen the light. I can now see how important this cross is to this town. I come to understand the stories that this cross could tell if it just had someone the way to speak and someone to hear. Mayor, we all have hard times in our lives, but I'm learning that no matter what life throws our way, we each need to pick up our own cross and carry it. I'm not saying it will be easy. I remember a story from my early days in Sunday school. Remember when Jesus was being led to be crucified and he had to carry his cross and stumbled under the weight? Do you remember that God gave him someone to help him carry the burdens of the cross? Well, Mayor, I know that is what he does for us. We just need to let him help us carry our own crosses, our own burdens. And just like Jesus allows someone to help him in time of need, Bill looked up at the cross and said, "Mayor, do you know what this cross tells me?" Mayor said, "No, what?" Bill said, "The cross tells me that I'm God's child, the one that his loving heart beats so dearly for. And he always knows what my heart needs. His voice has the power to heal the hurt inside. His truth speaks to bring my heart back to life." And Matt, the cross also tells me by living, Jesus loved me. By dying, he saved me. By buried, he carried my sins so far away. And by rising, he justified me, telling me my sins are gone and forgiven. Bill reached out and laid his hands on the wooden cross and said, "So, Mayor, the cross is more than just a piece of wood. It's the greatest storyteller on earth. That's, my friend, is what the cross tells me." I have a question to ask you, Mayor. The mayor took off his hat and held it in his hands and said, "Yes, Bill, what?" Bill's eyes looked over the town and then looked up back at the cross, smiled, then turned back to Mayor and said, "What does the cross tell you?" You know, maybe sometimes we need to, when you see the cross, maybe we should stop and maybe it does have a lot more stories to tell than what we think. I said this book was probably the most challenging book I've ever written because there could have been so many stories I could have put in there. The cover photo was taken on Blacksmith Hill. The story of that cross, the guy put it up 15 years ago when he was saved. And he put it up to remind him of when he was saved. just like the closing song today, I picked a closing song by Kellington. It's called Tells Me. I picked this song because all the time I was writing this book, that song is what I felt most of the time when I was writing this book.